I feel so bad for the Miami Dolphins quarterback, Josh Rosen. Last year, he was a quarterback for the Cardinals. And they were awful, by the way. They were the worst team in all of football. Well, he got traded to the Dolphins, and somehow he ended up on an even worse football team. Awful, awful, awful. Last year, Josh Rosen was a bit of a mess, right? He had a number of mistakes, and he was part of the problem. That's why he got traded away. Josh Rosen was not great. He was a large part of the problem as to why the Arizona Cardinals were so bad last year. But on Sunday, in his first start for the Miami Dolphins, he actually looked much improved, way better as a quarterback. But his team, his team is absolutely awful. They suck. The people around him all are terrible. Coaches, players, offensive linemen, it's all bad. So he had his first start against the Dallas Cowboys. He was 18 for 39 passing. That's a 46% completion percentage. That is not encouraging if you go by just the numbers. He had 200 passing yards exactly, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. But his stats were completely misleading. This is why I hate when people focus their entire analysis on just the stats. They go, man, the numbers were bad. Clearly Josh Rosen is bad. Or the numbers were good and clearly this guy's good. Sometimes the numbers are not an accurate description of what happened. I'll tell you right off the bat, when you watch Josh Rosen throw, you know, man, this guy can make great throws and beat man coverage. When you watch the film, you go, this guy's accurate and can make great throws when he's asked to. But he also, in this game, against the Cowboys, he made a ton of great decisions. He regularly was taking what the defense gave him. He did not force the ball downfield into coverage. I was really, really impressed with the way that Josh Rosen played. His stats suck. That's not an accurate description of what happened. Now, I want to be very upfront and honest. There are a couple mistakes Josh Rosen made. I want to get them, the skeletons in the closet. Let's get them out in front of people. Now, neither were glaring issues, but they did happen, so we have to talk about them. But here's the good news. They're mistakes that can be solved with time. But it is important to acknowledge them. There were 2 plays in this game where Josh Rosen had the right idea. I thought, man, if you're going to make a mistake, this is not the worst mistake you could make. He had the right idea, but he was late in executing his idea. The first mistake was on a seam ball to Allen Hurns. The Dolphins run play action. Josh Rosen makes the right read, but he does it way too late. And sadly, as a result, his slow decision-making process, his slow ability to read the defense, got Allen Hurns obliterated and sent to the hospital with a concussion. Quarterbacks have to remember, especially when you're throwing the ball over the middle of the field, every action you take and every throw you make has some kind of consequence on the field. Now, the minute Josh Rosen pops up from faking the run, he should be throwing the ball. You see, he pops up from the run fake. He scans the defense for a while. By the time he throws the ball, it's too late. He's processing the defense way too long, and that is why he's late to throw to Allen Hurns. That's one mistake. Hey, it's out there. I acknowledged it. The second one is this. It was a mixture of good timing by the defense and poor timing by Josh Rosen. The Cowboys bring a blitz off the right edge. And what this does is leave the number 2 receiver on the right side completely uncovered and momentarily wide open. Now, the Cowboys are rolling a safety down to cover that number 2 receiver. So Josh Rosen tries to throw the ball immediately to this guy while he's uncovered. The problem is he does it too late. By the time Josh Rosen snaps the ball, the safety's already come down and had an impact on the play. It's a good idea by Josh Rosen if he can make it earlier, before the safety can roll down. If he can snap the ball earlier before that safety can make his move, that's a great idea. It's a great play. Instead of a great play, it's just a good idea that was wasted because Josh Rosen was too late in executing the idea. But man, aside from those 2 moments, Josh Rosen really did represent himself very well. I know the stats don't show, but he made a couple of great plays where he ran around and made something happen out of nothing. He was ad-libbing really well. And when things didn't work out perfectly, he was calm. He made things happen. I just was so impressed. And as I mentioned earlier, he did a great job, I can't repeat this enough, of taking what the defense gave him. He didn't force the ball into coverage. He made good decisions with the football. Now, the reason the Dolphins scored only 6 points was not because of Josh Rosen. First of all, there were multiple just blatantly dropped passes right through guys' hands. And man, it was embarrassing. I was like, really? There was even a drop touchdown pass on 3rd and 4 where Josh Rosen dialed up a perfect throw against man coverage, and the receiver could not hold on to the ball. The receivers were bad, just disappointing to watch. Another thing is that the Dolphins' offensive line was awful. Regularly, the Cowboys brought a 4-man rush. And what the Dolphins would do is leave 6 or 7 guys in the block. That means they had 6 or 7 blockers to stop 4 people. And yet still the Cowboys got constant pressure on Josh Rosen. If you have 7 guys and you can't block 4, that's a gigantic, gigantic problem. That happened regularly. Here's the other problem, is that when you're leaving 7 guys in the block for a quarterback, it creates a matchup problem downfield, a mismatch in favor of the defense. If the offense has 7 guys blocking plus the quarterback in the backfield, then only 3 receivers can run routes downfield. In this scenario, that means the defense has 7 defenders covering 3 receivers. It's a losing math equation. That's terrible. And, I got to also mention, I was really unimpressed with the Dolphins' play calling. Just in general, it's like, man, you're not creating good matchups for your team. The worst play call of the entire game, though, was on a 3rd and 3 later in the game. The Dolphins called a play where only 3 receivers were running routes downfield. Now, here's the other problem. Not just that there are only 3 receivers, that they could all be covered easily. But here's the bigger problem. It's 3rd and 3, and yet all receivers ran deep, longer developing routes. Again, the Dolphins only needed 3 yards. The defense blitzed, and Josh Rosen, guess what, had nobody to throw the ball to. When a defense blitzes, you want to have an outlet to get rid of the ball quickly too. There were no outlets, and because of the longer developing routes, nobody was even looking for the ball by the time Josh Rosen was sacked. Come on, guys. The Dolphins were not putting Josh Rosen into situations where he could succeed. It was horrible. He had no chance to be successful. That's awful. That's bad coaching and very disappointing to watch. The Dolphins' offensive line is terrible. They can't pass block. They can't really run block either. The Dolphins only had 72 rushing yards on Sunday, and 13 of those rushing yards came from Josh Rosen running around trying to avoid getting sacked. So aside from the plays where Josh Rosen was running, the Dolphins only had 59 rushing yards the entire game. Now here's one thing I believe the Dolphins need to do to make their lives easier, to give themselves a better chance to be successful. They need to run more screen passes. Their offensive linemen are really, really bad at individual pass blocks. They're just not talented. It's not going to be solved by the end of the year. They get beat all the time. It's really, really terrible. So the best way to succeed when you have a horrible offensive line that can't beat one-on-one blocks in the passing game is to run screen passes. That's because screens, on all screens, offensive linemen make it look like they're going to block you, and then let you just run right by them and go downfield to try to block other people at the next level. All the quarterback has to do is buy a little bit of time, then throw behind the defenders that are about to kill him, and get the ball in the hands of a playmaker who can get downfield and make a bigger play. That's what I would watch for. If you're a Dolphins fan, watch for the way they run screens and watch for whether or not they do it more and do it more successfully. My hope is that the Dolphins start running a bunch of screen passes and get the ball in the hands of guys who are better playmakers, guys like Kenyon Drake, who can make big plays in open space, but normally have a hard time getting to open space because they can't block anything, and there's no way Kenyon Drake, the running back for the Dolphins, can ever get sprung and get into an open field situation where he can really make a big play. Now, I think the biggest problem that Josh Rosen, the biggest challenge he's going to face all year so far, and really over the course of this year, is Josh Rosen needs to be a good leader in practice throughout the week. When you're losing and you suck, it's easy for people to become disengaged and start caring less. I know it's the NFL. I know guys are getting paid, but let's be honest, this still happens all the time. When you watch on Sunday, the effort from a lot of the receivers was just poor. Guys are not giving their best effort all the time. And there was one play where Josh Rosen made a really great pre-snap read. The Dolphins had a running play called, but nowadays most running plays, let's be honest, are plays where, if The quarterback likes what they see. They have an option to throw the ball anyways. That's how running plays are. All throws now have an option to throw. All running plays now have an option to throw the ball. So the defender over the number 2 receiver blitzed into the run. This left the number 2 wide receiver uncovered and wide open. So guess what Rosen did? He made a great heads-up play. He threw him the ball. But neither receiver on that side of the field was even looking for the ball. I think their attitude was, hey, it's a run play. We're just going to take this one off, not give a good effort. It was the right read by Rosen. You could see it. Watch him after the play. He's yelling and pointing. He's like, look, he did the right thing. And so this is a good lesson for Josh Rosen as a leader. He has to do a good job throughout the week to work hard to make sure everybody around him knows the entire game plan and all the little adjustments throughout the game. You got to make sure your guys know that. You got to get on the same page. You got to be that annoying guy. Hey, man. Hey, Drew, do you know you got to look for the ball quickly? Do you know this? Do you know that? Be that guy. That's what he has to do, is pick up his team and make sure everybody's on the same page. That's on Josh Rosen. He has to do more work than normal because the guys around him suck. It's hard, but it's going to make him a better leader in the long run if he embraces that role. The truth is, I feel really bad for Josh Rosen. He's in a horrible situation. He's not a bad quarterback, but everyone around him sucks. And all Josh Rosen can do is the best he can with what he has. Now, I do also want to talk about, long and the short is, I feel bad for Rosen. But there's one more thing I want to talk about that I think will appeal to Dolphins fans watching this video. The Dolphins ran an onside kick on Sunday, and they got it. They recovered the ball. It was awesome. It was fun to watch. But it was called back because supposedly one of the Dolphins was offsides. Now, I watched this play, and I paused it at the kick, and guess what? Nobody's offsides. And even more is, even after the ball is gone, the ball has been kicked, there's still nobody offsides. This was a bad call. I feel bad for the Dolphins. They got robbed. They should have gotten the ball after the onside kick recovery. It should have been their ball. And instead, the refs made a bad call and kind of screwed him over. I just wanted to point that out. I saw it on film. I was like, I have nowhere to put this other than at the end of the Josh Rosen video where Dolphins fans might see it. The Dolphins got robbed. I feel bad for them. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. And you may not know, my dream when I graduate college eventually is to do this show as my full-time job. Now, I also want to be very upfront and honest about my plan and what's going on. I recently monetized my YouTube channel. What that means is that some of my videos make money through ad revenue. Now, it's fewer than you think. A lot of my videos get claimed. But in the past, I've received donations through the form of PayPal and Patreon.com. PayPal.me/Zach Schaumler, Patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. So because I'm making ad revenue, it felt weird to just get donations. I wanted to give something back to the people who support me on Patreon. So now there's a reward. If you support me on Patreon, you can submit questions at the dollar level or above. You just need to give $1 a month. If you do that, you can submit questions to a pool of questions where I look at. I'll read all the questions on Patreon, and I pick the top couple every episode and read them and answer them on a segment called Ask Zach. I pick the top couple questions and answer them at the end of every single episode. Now, that's for people who want to support me with money. If you have no money to give, I totally understand. I've actually never supported anybody on Patreon. I feel kind of weird about that. I'm a broke college kid myself. I totally understand. But if you believe in me and if you believe in my dream and still want to help me, one thing you can do is help me grow by telling your friends about Strong Opinion Sports. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. Help me grow by telling your friends about Strong Opinion Sports. Guys, thank you so much. I know that was a long spiel. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a great day.